Hey, ¿qué pasa, Calexico? Welcome back to the podcast. Like always, before we begin, I want to thank some people. I want to thank my anchor sponsors. I want to thank my friend Sergio Armenta and Jesus Quesada, a.k.a. Jake. Thank you guys for sponsoring the podcast. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank Patty Chow and Golden Dragon Restaurant for allowing me to record today's episode here. Invite you guys to stop by. They're located at 928 South Imperial Avenue here in Calexico. Also, make sure to check out their Facebook page and Instagram. I'll leave links to that on the episode notes. Finally, I want to shout out my friend Robert and his wife Sonia Carreño. They just opened a furniture store here in Calexico, Modern Home. It's located in Paseo Mall, where Payless Shoes used to be at. So make sure to go check them out. Check out their Facebook page. And yeah, I'll leave notes. I'll leave Facebook pages on the notes. And also, just want to remind everybody that today's episode is not an endorsement. I just want to invite candidates that are running for the elections, just so that the public can get to know them. There's just no way an endorsement. Just trying to inform the community and have them to get to know the candidates. So if you're a candidate of any running for any elected public office positions, and if you want to be on the podcast, make sure to send me an email at quepasacalexico@gmail.com or send me a message through Facebook or Instagram. Today's guest is a current IID board member. He's a Calexico resident. He's been he and his family have been business owners for a long time here in the city. Our guest today is Erik Ortega. Thank you for being here. I guess I can say that you're a little bit of a reserve. Normally I get on Google and search the people that I'm interviewing, and I'll get a list of things, and yours is very limited to like your IID bio and a couple of articles here and there. There's not much about you as I guess like as a public official. There's really not much that I found on Google. Is it fair to say that you're a little bit reserved when it comes to like?
Well, as far as my profile is concerned, I of course have submitted my information to the various entities I have served in the past. I think I have Googled myself before, and I'll find my profile as to when I ran for a certain office, maybe my candidate statement at that time, but. Yeah, it doesn't look like others that are all over the place.
Yeah,
right. But,
especially now in the social media day and age, where like everybody has something out there that good or bad.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of like limited. I was like, and in general, like you said, there's a lot of people that like to be out there in the public, public eye and doing all these things. And it seems like you're a little bit more of a.
So, yeah, there hasn't been a lot of controversy tied to my service for the community. I've been someone that's, I've been very direct, and I've run for these positions to do a job and to make sure that it gets done. And I believe that in the various positions I've served over time, I have a list of accomplishments that I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
But has controversy come with it? Or have I been controversial? My opinion is no.
Yeah.
And based on your comments, it seems to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess when there is a lot of stuff out there, it's because of people like the gossip, and there's most of the times it's bad stuff.
Absolutely. And then I try to get along with everyone, so that helps.
Yeah. I mean, being a business owner, I guess here in the Valley, and especially in Calexico, because I know my father-in-law knew your dad, and I think yourself, Manuel Reyes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was a good friend of mine. He was involved in medical transport in the end. So I'm involved in that. So we would have lengthy discussions about his experience in that, because he ended up selling when he unfortunately was ill. And that was some of the last conversations we had. But yes, he was a good friend of ours.
And going back, normally we kind of like went on a little bit, diverted. But normally I let my guests tell us a little bit about themselves. Like I said, you grew up here in Calexico, and your parents have been business owners, people here from the city.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit more, elaborate a little bit, growing up here,
Sure. So I'm a lifelong resident of Calexico, as you mentioned. My parents have been in business in the city of Calexico for over 30 years. I, of course, became an entrepreneur as well. I've been in business for a number of years. As I mentioned, I'm involved in medical transport, and I still assist my parents in what they do as well. I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and I have 1 brother. My brother doesn't live here in the city, but my mother does. Me and my wife and my kids do. And I ran for different offices before. I served on the Calexico Unified School Board of Trustees. I was appointed in 2013. I ran for the office in 2014. And then, of course, the boundaries were redrawn for the IID in 16, which is when the seat became vacant. I was asked by various individuals in the community if that was of interest to me. At that time, I wasn't familiar with the redrawing of the boundaries, given that that was being settled in the election I was participating in for Calexico Unified, as to whether IID would be at large or by district. And at large means the entire valley votes for the directors.
Okay.
By district means only that district that's drawn out votes for that director. So the people of the Imperial Valley decided they wanted the IID directors to be by district. So moving forward, I, of course, decided after being approached, considering it, talking to my wife, talking to my family, decided to run for the IID Board of Directors, especially since it involved the Imperial Valley's resources, what makes it precious, what makes it valuable, which is water, and of course energy, which is critical to the economic vitality of the Imperial Valley, which is critical to the life of the Imperial Valley. What I was doing at the time was very important as well. Had to do with education, had to do with students, had to do with our future. So it was a hard choice to make. But I believe that the choice I made was the right one, because since then, when prevailing in that election for the IID Board of Directors, there came difficult issues related to the Imperial Irrigation District and its water rights, which was a lawsuit that was brought on by a local farming family disputing who owned the water rights for the Imperial Valley. Was it the Imperial Irrigation District, or was it the farmers? A local judge sided with the farmers, agreeing that those water rights were appurtenant to their land, meaning those who own the land own the water. IID felt otherwise. IID felt that those water rights belonged to the IID, who held them in trust for all of the water users. And water users means you, me, and everybody. Yeah. Everybody that's in the Imperial Valley. So at that time, IID decided to appeal. For that appeal, it needed a majority of votes. But fortunately, it was a unanimous vote, and we moved forward with the appeal. And that litigation continues today, and has actually gotten worse recently with a contempt order that was filed by the plaintiff against IID for entering into a water contract with Ormat, who is a geothermal company that creates a lot of jobs, but not only a lot of jobs, but jobs that pay a living wage. And that water contract entailed them expanding for about 500 acre feet which is a fraction of water. And just to give you an overview, out of all the water that the Imperial Valley is entitled to from the Colorado River, agriculture uses 97% of it.
Yeah.
Everything else you see, municipalities, industrial companies, they only use 3% of it. Yet we're in court disputing 500 acre feet of water for a business to expand. That's a threat to the economic development of the Imperial Valley. That's a threat to any new business that wants to come into the Imperial Valley. That's a threat to any business that wants to expand, that wants to generate more jobs.
Yeah.
So I felt that you had to have directors that understood that could make the right decisions and wouldn't be intimidated. Because again, these are families that are very wealthy, have a lot of resources. And we made it. And there's been other issues that have surfaced as well. I don't know if you were privy to AB 54.
Yeah, that's one of my questions. That
okay, should I wait for that or?
No, if you wanna
elaborate some.
Yeah. Because my question was, what were your thoughts on the proposition, and if you can explain a little bit to those that might not.
Yeah. So AB 54, which was a bill that was introduced by Chad Mays, who's an assemblyman out from Yucca Valley, that has a very small portion of La Quinta, which is in our service area, felt that 60% of IID's revenue, energy revenue, is generated out in the Coachella Valley, in our service area. But yet, the directors for the Imperial Irrigation District are all elected in the Imperial Valley, and there are 5 divisions. He felt that his ratepayers, the ratepayers out there, had no voice for themselves, and felt that it would take an act of the legislature to make sure that they had a voice. So what his bill intended to do was add 6 seats. We currently have 5. He would add 6 seats to the Imperial Irrigation District with this bill. This, of course, was a threat to our autonomy. This was a threat to our water rights, which I was discussing earlier.
Yeah.
This is a threat to everything the Imperial Valley has, because now you would have 6 directors, additional directors, taking all of the resources from the Imperial Valley to serve those in the Coachella Valley, which they feel is developing at a very fast pace, and they are in need of water, and they're in need of energy infrastructure, which has become a dispute as well, not only in the Coachella Valley, but in the Imperial Valley at times, because you'll have new developments that require more energy infrastructure to serve their load, their energy. And what will happen is, based on our regulations, any new business that comes in that needs additional energy, and that additional energy requires more infrastructure, those costs have to be borne by that business, which of course they'll be of the position, well, that really dilutes our return on investment.
Yeah.
And frankly, we're not willing to invest that. And what's very important to understand is any and all infrastructure that IID pays for, anytime, adds rate pressure. Because there's really no mechanism of recovery in our energy bills, and the reason being to keep them low. So some people have to ask themselves, are you guys willing to pay more on your energy bills to pay for this infrastructure so these businesses can make money on the infrastructure you paid for? So those became issues out in the Coachella Valley. They're issues here as well. Obviously, there's different sides, different arguments, but in a nutshell, that's what that means. If we pay for it, that adds rate pressure. That means ultimately your rates can increase. Yeah. And that can be a problem for everybody, but in any event, AB 54, of course, would add the additional seats, which would not be good for the Imperial Valley. Their argument of them generating 60% of the revenue and granting them a voice was not correct. I mean, just because you consume some product in mass doesn't make you part owner of that product. Yeah. Doesn't give you a voice. Yeah. And again, it goes back to an agreement in 1934 that IID signed with the Coachella Valley Water District that granted IID its energy rights in the Coachella Valley. That's why IID is in the Coachella Valley. Because at some point, when there was a dispute on water, everything goes back to water when it comes to IID. The Bureau of Reclamation, the Department of Interior, was looking at making the Coachella Valley and the Valley one as far as the water is concerned. So, in essence, IID would be managing all that water. Well, Coachella Valley wanted to be independent. They wanted their own water district. So there was resistance. So at some point, the Bureau got involved. There was a resolution. And because of that resolution, which is a 1934 agreement, where both parties agreed, there was three parties, the Department of Interior, the Coachella Valley Water District, and the Imperial Irrigation District, agreed that they would form their own water district. IID would, of course, assist them with their water system, which is the Coachella Canal through the American Canal, which is how they get deliveries of water. So it's thanks to IID that they have the additional waters that they need. Yeah. And in return, they would grant IID their energy customers to serve them the load, which of course came with a few things of benefit to the Coachella Valley. Number one, they get a percentage of our overall energy revenues for doing nothing other than supplying us those customers.
Yeah, consuming.
Okay. They, of course, have their water system thanks to the IID. And again, there's an agreement that settles this dispute. It's a 100-year agreement that's got 12 more years on it. And we're currently in discussions with the Coachella Valley Water District as to what the fate of that agreement will be. One, will we renew? Two, will we divest, which was something I proposed as my term as president when all this was going on and we needed to put an end to it. Or three, we're going to renegotiate other terms and stay. As you can imagine, a 100-year agreement isn't going to get resolved in a year of discussions, especially with two entities that have had a lot of issues, especially with AB 54, just simmering down. So we are, of course, still in those discussions. And if you talk to anybody in the Coachella Valley, the actual people that benefit from IID's low rates, they will tell you they don't want IID to go. Yeah, because they, unlike the Imperial Valley people, are familiar with what high rates are because of the neighboring utility that's just across Washington Street that they probably have their family that they do comparisons as to what those bills are. And that became really controversial out there because the the Riverside politicians, they were interested in power. And I don't mean energy, I mean political power when this was going on. Not considering what the people wanted. Yeah. But when the people found out and when I proposed that we divest and we exit Coachella and that process got underway, the news got involved, the media, They started interviewing people at gas stations. They started reaching out to people in the various cities that we serve. And all of them they all had a consensus. You can't leave.
Yeah.
There's no way we can afford the rates from the neighboring utility. Mm-hmm. And of course, by default, they reach out to their elected officials and say, well, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you doing to make these people leave? So that, of course, well, I don't want to say it put an end to that bill, because I don't think that will ever go away.
Yeah.
I don't think maybe the bill will go away, but maybe a new one will be formed, or some other action will be taken to continue to come after IID's water rights, which is always the focus of everyone outside of the Imperial Valley and inside of the Imperial Valley.
Yeah.
Given the lawsuit that we're having.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy how we see the IID as a electrical company, which it is, but also how much the water is involved, or how important the water it is for the ID and the valley. We're talking about the water. Can you tell me a little bit about the Salton Sea and the New River? How did we let it get that bad, and how is the ID getting involved too?
So the Salton Sea, of course, has been receding for a long time, meaning it's the water's getting the sea is getting smaller, and as that recedes, the playa, as they call it, the surface, is exposed, which has, of course, various contaminants which go airborne and cause a number of illnesses, the number one being asthma, which a lot of people suffer from, especially those that live over there. In 2003, when the IID entered into the QSA, which involved the water transfers to the Coachella, San Diego. One of the conditions of the QSA was that the state restore the Salton Sea. And that was in 2003. And as you're a witness, that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So IID, of course, kept pushing to make sure that happened. When I first ran for this seat, that was part of my platform, was the Salton Sea, to hold the state accountable. When I first got elected to the board, I got involved in the various hearings that we had with the Water Resource Board related to the Salton Sea, and the fact that the state still had not taken any action, even though they had that commitment. Finally, they were able to come up with a 10-year plan, which involves habitat and dust suppression, which are the main factors out there. Of course, the habitat helps suppress the dust, right? Because you have the ponds and the birds that migrate, which every year is becoming less and less, sadly. And then, of course, you have the dust suppression, which, of course, assists with the playa not being exposed. So the state finally came up with a 10-year plan, but yet there was still no action until Governor Newsom appointed Secretary Crawford, and then various other changes to the Water Board, including its chairman, started taking action. The chairman of the Water Resource Board is actually from Coachella. Secretary Crawford, of course, has come down a number of times. I've talked to him several times, and he's appointed by Governor Newsom in regards to the Salton Sea. About 6 months ago, the IID and the state of California finally were able to come to an agreement on an easement on property that IID owns that borders the Salton Sea, so that they could start the 10-year plan, start the surface roughening, start some of the ponds, and start some of the habitat work, so that they could RFP for the contractors that would be doing that. So that's underway now. In addition to about $280 million that have already been allocated for the sea. There's an additional $220 million that's unfortunately not a line item on the budget, in the governor's budget, but is subject to a bond that will be voted on in the general election this year. So keep our fingers crossed. Yeah. That'll be additional monies to address that. As far as the new river, and obviously anybody in Calexico knows what that is. Yeah. From when I got on the IID, we started working on a project jointly with the city of Calexico and the county of Imperial. Of course, the state of California and the EPA to encase the river that flows through Calexico, meaning you run through a pipe as opposed to being exposed like it is now, and adding a trash screen to assist in keeping a lot of those pollutants and other things that flow from the river this way, which would trap them and then allow to be cleaned as opposed to flowing. That comes at a cost of about $28 million. 10 have already been committed. 18 will be available in June of 2020 for this project. It doesn't resolve the issue, but I'll tell you what, it's certainly a good step forward. The maintenance for that will be about $150,000 a year. The county, IID, as well as the city will be contributing jointly for that maintenance. So that's for starters for the new river, and that's what's on the horizon for the new river at this point.
Okay. I had something on mind. What made you get into politics?
So, as a business owner, I would, of course, attend city council meetings for various regulations that they would be inserting or amending in the various city codes. So at that time, as I would attend the meetings to either submit my opinion, because it impacted me directly or impacted my business directly, I started looking at the agenda and then looking at other items, or while I sat waiting for my item, I would witness and I would take interest into other items that were going on at that time. And then there was a time when there was an item on an agenda that was going to impact me directly, and yet I didn't know about it. No one actually let me know, even though the agenda was posted outside of City Hall. That's how, before they used to email them. It was posted outside and you could see. And at that time, when I realized it, it concerned me. So what I started doing was I started going to every single meeting from then on, just to make, or I'd go and look at the agenda to make sure that there was nothing there that could impact me. Could impact me. So I know. So as I did that, I started attending the meetings, and then as councilmen would see me there, they would invite me on one of the various commissions. And then, of course, I got involved. I was also involved in the Chamber of Commerce. And then as I assisted in various campaigns, helping out, in various capacities, I considered running for one of the offices at that time. And I did. I didn't prevail. At that time, it was the Hefferman Board. That was a long time ago. I then went to the Senior Citizen Club to talk about what I was doing. Because, I would inquire with people I thought knew about politics here in the city to see what I needed to do, because I knew nothing. So that was one of the first stops that they asked me to go to. And then I became very good friends with the president of the club. Very good friends, Miss Isabel Wong. She was known as Chavela. Real good friend of mine. She passed on in 2017. But as I attended those meetings, I was asked to be their treasurer. So I became their treasurer for about 4 years, managing, of course, the membership fees and their events. And just like me, there was others running for office valley-wide. You know, judges, councilmen, IID directors, supervisors. They would approach me in regards to getting access to the senior citizens. So what I would do to raise money for the club was to, of course, assist them, or neutrally, but I don't know if you can ever be neutral or ever be accused of being neutral, in pointing them in the right directions as far as the seniors were concerned, and the places that they lived, so that they could convey their message as to why they were running. So there I got more involved in politics when I was at the club, and helping Ms. Wong with the events and coordinating with the candidates, the contributions they give the club, of course, to be in good standing, and to be allowed into the events, and to at times pass out their literature, and attend meetings. So, you know, it was that and other community engagements I did, and helping out, and I really liked it. You know, I really liked helping the community, knowing that what I did impacted the community. So, you know, then I ran for various other offices, and I prevailed, and here I am.
I know sometimes it's brought up. I know it was brought up with Cacho as well, where, you know, he was a city councilman here in Calexico. You were in the board here.
Yes.
And then you guys, people say that you use that platform to get into a bigger board.
Sure,
like he was.
Sure.
I mean, to me, I don't find it bad, because it's like any other job where, like, you know, you start at one position, and you know, that's how I see it. I don't know.
So, you know, when I was at Calexico Unified, I had no intentions of moving on. I really liked it there. I really liked what I did. I really liked knowing that all my decisions helped the students, helped the teachers, helped the staff. So at the time when I was first approached for the IID, and not being familiar with the redrawing of the boundaries, I had actually declined, because I thought they were asking me to run against Norma Galindo, who's a very dear friend of mine. I'm like, I'm not doing that. You know, no. They said, you don't understand. This has been redrawn, and this is a vacant seat. And
so there was nobody for that. It was
because Division 4 belonged to Steve Benson, who had stepped down. He lives in Brawley. He had stepped down, so leaving that seat open. So when it was redrawn, they redrew it to where it represented the majority of Calexico and basically half of Heber. So it was vacant. There was no incumbent in that seat at that time. So it was explained to me, the various individuals that were looking at running, and they said, you know, this should be of concern to you, because IID is critical to the Imperial Valley. You get the wrong person in that seat, and it'll be detrimental to the Imperial Valley. You really need to think about that. If you really want to serve, you should really consider this. And at that time, I had just was out of a campaign. You know, it was a year and a half or something, and you know, and I have a very strong work ethic. You know, I don't take anything for granted. I work hard at everything I do. Everything I do. So when I think of campaigning, you know, I already feel the fatigue, because I know how hard I'm going to go at it.
Yeah.
So when that was proposed, I thought about it, and then I got a number of people that approached me at that time. And I did some research as to what the IID did. Obviously, I was familiar with the energy side, not so much with the water side. So as I discussed and considered, I made the decision. But when I prevailed at Calexico Unified, I I had no intentions of moving on to another office. And anybody that's campaigned for any office and has worked hard at it will tell you, you know, you get out of one race, you're not looking for the next one.
Yeah,
you know, it takes a lot. And that was my case. But I was approached, and reasons were submitted why I should consider, and I considered them, and I made that decision. And frankly, I don't regret it. I think that it was a good choice, especially for the Imperial Valley, especially with what's at stake. A lot of these subjects we've discussed are very serious. Yeah. And if they were to prevail, it would be it would just be a disaster for everyone in the Imperial Valley.
Yeah, because I guess something that we take for granted is the fact that the IID deals with a lot. You know, it deals with water, electricity, it deals with unions, it deals with employees, it deals with, you know, a lot of things that, I mean, a lot of us can't even imagine, you know, what it's like to, you know, decide, you know, things that will impact not only 10 people, it'll impact thousands of people, maybe. And yeah, it's something that, you know, shouldn't be taken lightly. And if you're going to run, you should be, you know, willing to give it 110% and be prepared, because it's, I mean, it's the livelihood of the valley, you know, what they're one of the biggest things that they manage, you know, the water is.
And it's very important to understand the issues. Obviously, it was a vacant seat. I've been there for 3 years. I've committed all of my time to learning the issues, to learning about water, to learning about energy. And let me just tell you, they're two complex issues. Yeah. Water especially when it comes to the rights. So you need someone that has the experience, that has put in the time, that got a track record of standing up for the Imperial Valley, standing up for the division, to continue to do that, so that we continue to have low power rates and plentiful water to expand economic development. Because if we do what they do for the city council, that you change councilmen every 4 years, and then they start learning the situation again, that could be a problem. Yeah. That could be a problem, especially in this seat that is so complex when it comes to water and power. And understanding what's good for the people. As I explained before, low power rates is a must. And as a businessman, I understand economic development, and I know how important it is for job creation. I know how important it is for new business. But if that new business needs millions of dollars of infrastructure, am I going to have the ratepayers pay for it? And let their rates increase so it can be done on their backs, as opposed to the company that's coming in to invest and make money in addition to job creation. So those are tough choices, but I have to do what's best for the people. And my commitment is to keep rates low, and all of my votes reflect that. And I will continue to do that. Now, is there things IID can do and address in regards to assisting business? Absolutely. And I always look for ways to do that. But as far as the ratepayers shouldering debt for business, it's something to consider. Yeah. I mean,
how speaking about you know, helping like small businesses and stuff like that, how's you know, the board involved in you know, deciding like all this grant money? How does it get allocated? Who gets, you know, what money? Or
sure. So the monies that are basically gone were the local entity funds that came from the QSA transfers that were to mitigate the fallowing of land, which is basically land that was taken out of production, which meant that cost jobs. Land was taken out of production to create more water for the transfers, while the Imperial Valley farmers adopted ways to conserve water to transfer. The first step there was to fallow lands, which, of course, were at a cost. right? You fallow lands. You don't have any irrigators, any tractor operators, seed companies, fertilizer companies. I mean, it's just a number. It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So there was monies made available through the transfers to mitigate those impacts since 2003. So there was different processes that were formulated throughout the years, depending on the board, through an application process, through a committee. It just depends. The last of the monies were distributed in this last round, and it was based on previous applications because there was not enough money. So obviously, if you open up the application process all over again, the impact will be very minimal. And then there was those that had already applied that didn't really receive local entity funds that could. So those applications were still in place at the time. Obviously, some entities aren't around anymore, so or may not need the funding at times. But that's how that process played out this last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you have a better impact in the community, being in, say, when you were in the Calexico Unified School District Board or in the IID? Do you feel that you have a better impact being in the IID board, like towards the community?
I think that both seats are extremely important, and I think both IID and Calexico Unified are both have the same impact, because you're dealing with different things. Over here, you're dealing with water and power, which you absolutely need to live. And over here, you're dealing with the future, which are our students. And everything that everybody at Calexico Unified does, from staff to teachers, everyone, is vital to that. So to distinguish and tell it's more important that I be here than there. I mean, I'm not going to say that, because that's an extremely important job at Calexico Unified. What I will say is, I think it's important that I'm in this, that I got to this seat when I did, and I continue in this seat for the challenges that IID has, which is it's defending its water rights and defending its autonomy, and making sure that the power rates are low.
No.
Yeah.
Since you were in two distinct boards, and a lot of times when it's election time, candidates might promise this and that.
Of course.
But now that you've had experience in these two boards, do you feel that you have a different mentality when it comes to promising things, because to like the bureaucracy when it comes to like a district, like a school district, or when it comes to like IID, do you feel that you would approach your constituents a little bit differently when?
Absolutely. So prior to being elected in any seat, you're outside looking in, so you don't understand all the bureaucracy that exists on getting anything done, because the wheels of government move very slow as opposed to those of private industry, or any decisions that we make on our own isn't as simplified in government. So when I first ran, I had my platform that I generate of what I thought made sense and was needed. And you're thinking, well, why don't they do it? it just makes common sense. I mean, oh my God, why reinvent the wheel? Why don't you just do this? I mean, I don't think they're thinking about that, And
you probably think like, am I the smart one here? Like, why?
Exactly. And now that I'm in office, I there's a reality, and things aren't as simplified. It's like Calexico Unified. You have restricted funds, which are only meant for X. That can't be used for Y. And in your life, if your bank account has X amount and you need to pay this, you just take it. You can't do it that way in government, and especially at IID. I mean, there's just people will say, "Oh my God, well, you have like an $800 million budget. I mean, you guys can afford to give us this and give us that." And you know what? there are laws in place, which gift of public funds, it's called, which doesn't allow you just to be giving away things just because it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be held liable. So that's in place to keep government from just, it's like if we decide to just start giving away energy just to look good.
Yeah.
Right? Like in this election, hey, I want everybody's vote, so hey, waive everybody's bill for the next 3 months, and that we can be accused of gifting of public funds, and that could create a problem, not only for the IID but for the directors as well. In addition to that, there's a big budget, and that budget, of course, is it's by department. The water department, the energy department, and then there's the cost of service, and then we have like almost 1,300 employees. So I mean, you look at our budget, and then you look at the size of our organization and the expenses. I mean, but some people just look at that budget; they don't really consider any of those things. And at some point, maybe I was the same way before I experienced what really happens in a organization.
Yeah, because I think back to like elementary when you had the ASB and people were like, yeah, we're gonna get pizza every day. Oh, and like it never happened. So like because it's not you don't become a king where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, and it's I think that's the big misconception like that people have where like when it's election season and people say like, you know what, I'm gonna do this and this and that. And when it comes, after their term is over, they're like, oh, yeah, but he didn't do anything. But you got to think about, the bureaucracy that, the things that happen in government and stuff like that, that it's not that easy when it comes to like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't understand, unfortunately, a lot of the developments that they see around. Some people link all solar to IID. Every single solar development in the Imperial Valley, they link it to IID, and that's really not the case. Those are all private solar developers that have power purchase agreements with various utilities, like in Los Angeles, San Diego, for example. That has nothing to do with IID other than the maybe they're interconnecting to IID to transport that energy that way, but it's really not tied to IIT, because I've heard a few people say, there's so much solar energy, we shouldn't even have a bill. But that's not our solar energy. Obviously, yes, IID procures solar energy from some of the developments you see here, but a majority of them, that energy is going elsewhere, and it's private. It has nothing, it's not IIDs, So, there's just a lot of misconceptions as to how it works. But I'm glad I was able to say that, because some people don't understand that, that solar power isn't really IIDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is the IID thinking about, maybe investing in renewable energy like solar or?
Yes. So I'm glad you asked me that question, because recently in a partnership with Citizens Energy, we developed a 30 megawatt solar field so that we could serve those of low income, that can't afford to have rooftop solar on their homes. And so this will, of course, reduce their bill and provide green energy to them. It'll be about 15,000 customers that will be impacted. And this is one-of-a-kind project that we were able to partner with Citizens Energy on. And that benefits Coachella Valley ratepayers as well as Imperial Valley ratepayers. And that's just one of a kind. That's the first of its kind. And we're going to be partnering to do more projects like that. And not only to serve the low income, but, serve all ratepayers. But we have to start somewhere. And I've had that, thank you for serving the low income, but what about us? And I get it. We all need help, even if you're not low income, you need help. You need help. I get it. And we're working towards that. And there's just, I've spoken with Mr. Kennedy, who's one of the principals of Citizens Energy, former congressman, Of course, his dad was Robert Kennedy, and he's talked to me about investing in other projects out here that can benefit the Imperial Valley. And we purchased solar development that we were procuring energy from last year, because the benefit to IID by buying it was we could reduce the cost of energy we were buying it at, which penciled out. So yeah, we currently own a solar development, and we purchased from other solar developers as well. We also purchased geothermal. There's biomass. I mean, it's just a number of energy products out there.
Yeah, because I mean, we talk about renewable energy, but or green energy, but the IID doesn't really create a lot of energy through that. Throws out a lot of like carbon. Like we don't really pollute a lot as the IID.
No, as you know, in California, it's very regulated, and there's a portfolio we're going to have to reach in regards to renewables. The target is 100%, which is really challenging, but we're working towards it. And you know, there is energy generated by peakers, which are there in the event that there's an outage, right? That are diesel fueled. So those you could consider to be not environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
But IID procures a lot of energy. Of course, it has a battery storage as well. So I think it's doing a good job. And as far as polluting, you know, they're very cognizant of the environment. Yeah, that's we even have a department for that. So.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your campaign slogan? You know, water for all of us.
Sure. So, water for all of us is related to the issues that we are having with our water rights, because I think, well, I believe that our water is for all of us and not just some of us, as that lawsuit states, that it's pertinent to the land, and those that own the land own the water. I believe the water is here to serve us all beneficially, and it's held in trust by IID, so that IID can serve everyone, including geothermal and any other business that wants to expand in the Imperial Valley. That's what that means.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell, you know, people listening?
Well, I just like to let them know that I'm very passionate about what I do. I've really enjoyed my time at IID. Meetings are very long. They start at 8 a.m., finish sometimes at 4 or 5 p.m. Nonstop. We eat through our meetings, but I enjoy them very much. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy fighting for the Valley. And I hope that the voters of Division 4 give me another opportunity to serve them, because I feel that there are a lot of things that are still need to be done. AB 54, even though it's not active, it's still a threat, especially with what I've mentioned in regards to the 1934 agreement being currently being negotiated with Coachella Valley Water District. And then, of course, our water rights that needs a board that understands, has thick skin, and will not be intimidated to defend the Imperial Valley's water rights, because we're already in court right now disputing whether we can serve a business that wants to expand that needs water. I mean, that's not acceptable. And you need water for everything. If you really look at everything we do, you need water for everything. Yeah. So with that, I'll just say that the Salton Sea is a priority. The drought contingency plan, we did not enter because we wanted the federal government to do right by us on the Salton Sea if we're going to assist them in the drought contingency plan, and we voted to not enter it. And I'll continue to hold these agencies accountable and use any leverage we have so that they can restore the Salton Sea and the New River. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and being on the podcast. I know they can follow your campaign at Erik Ortega for, what is it? The
IID.
IID.
Yes.
If you want to follow him and make sure so you can see what, you know, he's doing and if you want to reach him, through Facebook and stuff like that, to ask him any questions. I'm sure
absolutely
he's willing to talk about it. And thank you for your time, and thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.